Thank you so much for allowing us to participate in this really inspirational session. And I think what Samantha just presented is really what I'm going to be speaking about, where GSD4 and APBD align. My name is Priya Kishnani, and I'm a clinical and biochemical geneticist at Duke, with a real focus on the GSDs to try and better understand the natural history, but also for us to get a better sense and clarify that GSD4 and APBD are part of the same disease continuum. Next slide. Or I think I can do that, right?
Should be on your bottom left, Priya. Just there's like a little white area. Yep.
Yes, so I think for this audience, we all recognize where glycogen is coming from and how it is ultimately the storage form of glucose, and that it has a very branched structure really to make it compact as a storage mechanism for the glucose. And again, for this audience, we know that there are more than 15 types of glycogen storage diseases, either a problem with the synthesis or with the breakdown or with the transport of it. And so I just want to take a moment for us to talk about how we form the polyglucosan bodies or the abnormally structured glycogen, which is seen in the spectrum of GSD4/APBD. And again, as we synthesize this glycogen, we start with what is called a glycogenin core. And to it, then the black dots here, as you see, are glucose, which are all linked together. And there is what is called a chain elongation. And this requires a very important enzyme called glycogen synthase. And glycogen synthase, as the name suggests, is helping with the synthesis of the glycogen. But as you can appreciate, all what we are seeing is a long and linear chain. And then comes the very important part in the structure of making glycogen what it is, which is the branch points. And this is where the critical role of glycogen branching enzyme is and what is deficient or missing in our patients with GSD4/APBD. So what you can see here are these branch points. And because of these branch points, you can get this branched structure of glycogen. And so now if we look further, this is what results when we have a deficiency of the enzyme. We have more linear chains of glucose and less of the branch points. And this is what is called polyglucosan or polyglucosan bodies, which is what is building up in our patients with GSD4. So if we move ahead, historically, GSD4 and APBD were really considered as different disorders. And I hope that if at the end of today, if we can recognize that they're all caused by the same enzyme deficiency, the difference is really because of the underlying genetic changes that result in a deficiency of this enzyme, glycogen branching enzyme. And so in the past, it was used to describe children with this deficiency, and it was classified into the hepatic subtype, a neuromuscular subtype, and those who had plus minus heart involvement. And APBD was used to describe adults with this enzyme deficiency. I think this still holds true, but as you just heard so well from Samantha, even within the same family, you can have someone who presents with GSD4 and then someone who could have potentially, lived longer and then presented with APBD. So let's look at this a little bit more and try and get away from this discrete subtype classification as we've thought about, but rather think about it as a disease continuum, and that some patients can have some hepatic involvement, some muscle involvement, some neuromuscular involvement, some cardiac involvement, some can have a combination of these. And clearly, what I think we have to recognize is that as some of these patients live longer, they may go on to develop more of the symptoms that we recognize in patients with adult polyglucosan body disease. And so a key point here again is we have personally seen many patients, who are called what is called the non-progressive form and who have gone on to develop APBD. And I think that really is my messaging as I end this talk is glycogen branching enzyme deficiency is what is the cause of what we call GSD4, what we call APBD. So it is due to variants in that same gene that results in glycogen branching enzyme deficiency. Thank you.